Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on the webinar today. Apologies for the slight delay in starting, but thank you for holding on. My name is David Blockton, the Marketing Manager at Software One for UK and Ireland. Joined today by my colleague Paul O'Connor, who's the Sales Strategy Lead for UK and Ireland. Before I hand over to Paul, who will be going into the main part of today's session, just a few housekeeping rules. You may have noticed as you entered the webinar session that you've entered on mute. This to ensure that sound quality remains at an optimum. But we do encourage you to send your questions through using the chat box facility on your screen, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to use the chat box facility to send us your questions with regards to the NGVL or anything that Paul raises as he goes through today's content, and we'll use the last few minutes of the session to answer those questions. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Paul.
Thanks, David. As David said, my name's Paul O'Connor, and today I want to introduce to you next generation volume licensing from Microsoft, or NGVL as Microsoft are calling it. As Microsoft, NGVL from Microsoft is a move towards a whole new volume licensing agreement structure and model. The aim is that it will replace all the traditional volume licensing programs that we know today, including enterprise agreements, Select Plus, and even open agreements. And it will be for all sectors of business, so it will be for commercial, government, and academic, etc. So this really is what Microsoft see as the future of their volume licensing. However, we are, at the early stages of the introduction of NGVL. So I just, at this stage, is just providing that kind of brief overview of the program as it exists today. We are, in fact, at the launch of what Microsoft are calling Business Launch 3 within NGVL. Business Launch 3 went live on the 1st of December, so it is still at the very beginning. We have, up to this, had some very limited pilots, very much Microsoft-led individual cases of pilots. We actually have transacted through NGVL, but this is really, I suppose, the start as it goes out to the public domain. The agenda for today is kind of maybe the reasons why for the changes to NGVL, an overview of NGVL Business Launch 3 itself, and then a brief look at the agreement structure, comparing it to today, as well as the kind of a touch on the new portal that we'll see with NGVL. So looking, moving ahead, I suppose looking at the reasons for the change to NGVL. I mean, when you look at Microsoft volume licensing agreements today, I'm sure you'll agree with me that they are very complex. Difficult to complete when you're actually signing up to new agreements. The management and the maintenance of those agreements and the assets that sit within them is certainly a challenge for most organizations. Yeah, you probably had many different types of agreements and had to sign those agreements throughout the term of contracts. So there's been many different points where you have these signing events, as Microsoft call them. The agreements also didn't tend to coexist or run in parallel very well together. And then behind that, you have the portals that have, at times have failed to deliver or have been slow to perform because of the way they've had to grow over the years, and and haven't remained as dynamic as we'd have liked them to be. Also, with the change or to the move to online services online service and services type software, the existing agreements and portals that are, were being stretched to be able to deliver these solutions effectively. So, next slide there, please, Dave. So, I mean, as Microsoft have said, it is time for a change. When we actually look at the volume licensing programs that we're familiar with today, Microsoft volume licensing goes back about 15 years. In 2001, Microsoft introduced enterprise agreements with software assurance, and that was particularly for the desktop, and that was to allow that standardization, again, that we're more familiar with now. As we've moved along kind of from there, we've seen, you know, BPOS, but really with the release of Office 365 and Windows Intune, Microsoft have had to make changes to enable their enterprise agreements, etc., to make sure they were cloud ready. And even today, we still see that Microsoft are constantly having to evolve these to make them adapt to where they're going as a company, and the services that and software that they're providing is made available to all of us. With the introduction of NGVL, Microsoft are leading with their cloud services and solutions first. So anything that they're doing, be it in the development of the portal or the agreement models as they develop, it's cloud first. And that, I mean, again, I'm sure you've heard Microsoft say that when you've listened to webinars or have met them, that everything they're doing now seems to be on this, you know, cloud first wave, and that's certainly what they're looking to do with NGVL. If we look at volume licensing as it is today, you know, the structure, it is very complex. There are separate agreements and processes for each program. There are different, they can support different customer types, be it commercial and academic and government, or even purchasing entities within single agreements. This has resulted in, you know, multiple contracts and too much time spent on administration tasks and on, again, those signing instances. You know, so there, you know, behind this, there's a poor framework for asset management, which is becoming more and more important for every organization today, be it internal assessments or you know, vendors looking to do that kind of work with us. You can only have one partner of record or one partner assigned to each enrollment. There's no single sales vehicle for volume licensing purchases. For example, you can't buy on-premise and online services in one transaction, or you don't get the appropriate discount where you do that. For the instance where you may be buying online services directly from Microsoft's store online, you know, that would not be aligned to your enterprise agreement or your select agreements. You're not availing of that volume licensing discount that you may be entitled to. Behind that as well, you obviously have the systems and tools, as you can see on the right-hand side. You know, over the years, there have been multiple kind of interfaces that are, some are external facing, some are internal facing to Microsoft, but that's all kind of been packaged and plugged in together to deliver the volume licensing programs as we know today. With the introduction, or even with the existing volume license agreements that we have today, looking at the structure on the left-hand side, for some of the volume licensing programs, you can see that each acts independently. Of course, you have this common MPSA or Microsoft Businesses and Services Agreement, and then you may have master agreements on an enterprise agreement or select agreement. But you're actually purchasing against each enrollment, so be that an enterprise enrollment, a select enrollment, or in the case of Select Plus, it is a lead affiliate and then subsequent affiliates. Each is acting very independently. There's no streamline between them. Of course, we can inherit price levels from one to the other, so we can avail of the discounts that Microsoft are offering, but as they actually operate, they are all operating independently of each other. In addition, each of them requires its own signing event, which in general means a longer cycle to actually having the agreement in place. And I'm sure from your internal legal point of view, it creates a much bigger headache because a lot more contracts need to be reviewed before they can be passed for sign-off. Then if we actually start looking briefly at the next generation volume licensing kind of framework, at a high level at first, what we'll see is a big change where this master agreement, or what was the MPSA, is now turned into the Microsoft Products and Services Agreement, or MPSA, and that will encompass all of what was the MPSA previously and the master agreements previously. But not only that, the paperwork within that has been reduced down significantly, so it should be far less of a legal and administration headache in terms of being able to manage those agreements. Above that you have purchasing accounts. You only need to have one purchasing account, but you can have multiple. You could say that they're similar to enrollments today. However, purchasing accounts could be based on a department or a legal entity of the business, or a country, a unit of a business, or a group of people. It doesn't have to be this legal entity or legal group that an enrollment had to be in the past. From the kind of systems and tools side, as you can see, there are a few internal facing tools, but really what you're looking at from your point of view, there will be a single customer portal. From my point of view, there will be a single partner portal, which again should save a lot of time and energy when managing software assets moving forward. Before jumping into kind of the details of the agreement, I kind of wanted to touch on, Business Launch 3 and what is Business Launch 3. What are the can and can't do's, the timelines for changes, the advantages, of NGVL over your traditional volume licensing programs, or what are the restrictions that we see today. Let's go to the next one, please, Dave. Yeah. So I thought it would be best to kind of, you may have seen this slide before, but it's just kind of a roadmap as to where we are today and where NGVL is going in the future. Today, NGVL is a transactional licensing program. It's for license-only products and online services. But if we just dig into it a little bit deeper at first, it's for commercial customers only. Government and academic are expected to be added in the summer of 2014, but they're not there today. Like Select and Select Plus, you can purchase perpetual products, but today only without software assurance. As I've mentioned, software assurance will be added, and we do expect software assurance to be made available again in summer 2014. However, you can purchase online services like Office 365 and Windows Intune through NGVL, and that can be done today. These can be purchased as on an ad hoc basis. So you don't need to purchase Office 365 enterprise-wide like you would have to do in most enterprise agreements. So that is a real benefit, I believe, to customers, that they'll be able to get a real look at Office 365 or Windows Intune or the components of Office 365 through NGVL on a sort of transactional type basis. Business Launch 3, the other thing to point out, it's available in the UK, in Germany, the US, and Canada. So if we're to map that to currencies, it's made available in GBP sterling, euro, US dollar, and Canadian dollar. Moving forward, obviously, as we look ahead, NGVL will encompass enterprise agreements moving forward, as it will also encompass open agreements moving forward. You can actually pop to the next slide, please, Dave. Based on that, actually, if you look at kind of at the right of the screen here, you'll see that committed purchase. That's what I mean when I say about enterprise enrollments in the future. That will be that committed purchasing, because obviously an enterprise agreement is a commitment to a 3-year agreement around a fixed set of products. So that's the piece that we can expect to come in the future. However, with the more with NGVL Business Launch 3, or NGVL as it is today, it is buy in any quantity. It is based against a single agreement, that one MPSA agreement. You can purchase license-only products and online services, or a hybrid of the both. It does allow you to enable online services, the end user themselves, directly on the new portal, or it can be done obviously with the support of your partner, and that is immediate access to online services. And again, the order processing is done in real time, so you see those actions, you see those licenses on the system in real time. As I've touched on already, we have, with Business Launch 3, it's made available in the US, Canada, Germany, and the UK. Microsoft are making in Europe, the currencies will be made available in euro, pound, Swiss franc, Danish kroner, etc. In North America, though, as I've touched on already, US dollar is still an option. Just like you have against the Select agreement today, or Select Plus agreement, you have the ability to declare the usage of your software, and that would be done in the month that you're ordering software, or in the month that you're deploying the software. Obviously, if it's a net new product, that can't be backdated. It is from the point of deployment or usage of that software. The other big one coming in, obviously, when software assurance comes into play with NGVL, is that you will have 1 day after the expiry of the software assurance to renew that software assurance. So again, like we've seen common across enterprise agreements, Select agreements, Microsoft are getting, I suppose, that commitment to renew the software assurance before the anniversary. Just like Select agreements, Select Plus, and enterprise agreements, the pools are common for NGVL. We have levels A to D, which we have seen in the past, and the points that you accumulate in those are common to what you would have seen in Select or Select Plus. The NGVL agreement, or the MPSA, is an evergreen agreement, so just like your Select Plus in that model, it will not expire. However, you do have an anniversary that you work towards. There is no minimum entry for NGVL. However, there is the requirement that you maintain at least 500 points per pool per year against the 3 pools, which again is common to all previous Microsoft programs, that being desktop applications, desktop systems, and server products. The pools are common. I don't think there's any change there, so there's no additional complexity there. There's no additional kind of anything to learn there from maintaining the agreement. But the point being that you can start the agreement straight away. If you do go below the 500 point mark in a given year on a pool, that pool is put on hold. To have that pool re-enabled, it does take a qualifying order, or assume, like we've seen in the past, an exception from Microsoft to say, to have that pool reopened again. Just to actually bring in a comparison with Select, really I thought was the easiest thing to do. I've got 2 scenarios here, one being under volume licensing, which happens to be Select, versus on the right hand side is NGVL. Just showing you again some common details that you would have seen in the past, which is kind of the part numbers, otherwise known as SKUs for the products. They do change with the release of NGVL, but they do tend to start with AAA in most cases. Microsoft have also tried to simplify the product descriptions within the price lists. So as you can see on the left-hand side, there's quite a bit of text there compared to on the right. It's a much more streamlined description of the product and how it's licensed. Moving down from there, we can tell that in this case it's license only under the product type in both instances, and again the license agreement type, whether it's corporate or whether it's or whether on the NGVL side it is again commercial, based on the Business Launch 3 pilot. Again, just pointing out that Microsoft do identify the purchase type under NGVL as transactional, and the point, I suppose, the levels, okay, are common as we've touched on, but also the unit count that you accumulate per order is common. So, Office being a kind of a standard, the points you accumulate under Select or Select Plus would have been 5. It's the same under NGVL. So now if we just dive a little bit into the agreement structure itself a little bit deeper. What we're going to look at here is the MPSA, the Microsoft Products and Services Agreement, which I've already mentioned. in addition to that, the purchasing accounts that you actually buy against, and also then we'll look at the comparison kind of between today's volume licensing structure and NGVL moving forward. Also looking at the Volume License Center, or the Microsoft Volume License Center, the MVLC. Microsoft love their abbreviations, but that being the new portal to replace VLSC as you may know it today. So looking at the diagram here, as you can see on the left-hand side is a volume licensing structure, and as you can see there are a number of elements to it: the MPSA, the master, the enrollments, any affiliates. On the Select Plus side, you've got the lead affiliate and then subsequent affiliates, and for each enrollment you could have one partner that would be able to provide against that enrollment. With NGVL, those top two rows are being brought into this one MPSA master agreement, with then purchasing accounts below those which you purchase against. However, if you look at the purchasing account for Department B on the right-hand side, you can see that you can actually have multiple resellers and multiple partners assigned to a purchasing account. What does that mean for you is, well, as long as it's all under one MPSA and you're buying against these purchasing accounts, all the points are accumulated, across all the different purchasing accounts from maybe all the different resellers that you may deal with, to enable you to reach the maximum points level based against the size of your organization and the purchasing that you have with Microsoft to get those discounts. So again, just another kind of flat look at kind of the agreement structure as it is today versus NGVL on the right-hand side. Again, it's looking at that kind of dark blue area. All those kind of separate kind of agreements in their own right, or separate packages, will get rolled into this MPSA agreement. The MPSA is the foundation for the contract of the agreement, so it is in comparison to that enterprise agreement and select agreements where you roll them, the MPSA and the masters that we're familiar with in the past. So again, just pointing out I did mention this on the MPSA already, is actually how Microsoft have reduced the kind of the administration and the paperwork and the terms and conditions in some of the contracts. So what was the MPSA, the master agreements and select and so on, have been reduced to the MPSA. If you were to take the contracts today, Microsoft say it's about 49 pages, and they've reduced that down to 15. Not only that, but they're saying it's now a single signing event. So rather than signing each of those stages individually or at enrollment stages, it is now one single signing event. The MPSA will support, if your organization has commercial, academic, government entities, it will support multiple types of businesses within that one MPSA. So again, reducing the overall administration behind the program. Again, this is probably repetitive of what was there before, but kind of I just wanted to build up NGVL on its own. So at that bottom layer you have that MPSA, that kind of broader agreement. Within that you have those purchasing accounts that you can purchase against. Just a reminder that you can have one single purchasing account with multiple suppliers reporting into that, or you can have multiple purchasing accounts. And purchasing accounts moving forward, it doesn't have to be a legal entity. It can be a department. It can be a group of people. It can be a project. It can be, a country within your organization. So it does make that quite more user-friendly and maybe more adaptable to actually how you as a business may design and procure your software. At the top layer, then obviously we do have that committed purchases. That would be more again around the enterprise agreement as we move forward. So the purchasing account allows you to mirror your purchasing structure. This may be based on subsidiaries or organizations, departments, etc., as I've already said. In comparison to an EA or Select, you had to purchase against an enrollment, which had to be a legal entity within your organization. Under single agreement to purchase online services or on-premise products, you can, of course, now do that all in one purchasing account. Of course, today you can add online services to your enterprise agreement or enterprise subscription agreement. However, this is not possible through Select Plus. And as you may have found in the past, where you've had to do that separately, you are buying it maybe through Microsoft Online Portal, you're not reaping the rewards of getting the volume license discount that you are otherwise entitled to. Yeah, it just didn't recognize the price levels that kind of behind the size of your organization and the agreements that you were purchasing separately from. Finally, if we actually just look at the new Service Center from Microsoft, we just go one more. So with all of this, Microsoft are actually replacing VLSC, as I've already mentioned, with their new self-service center. I do have quite a bit of information on the portal itself and how it drills down. Again, like we've seen with Office 365 and online services, you are required to create a domain. Again, Microsoft offers the support around that. The portal itself will contain all your assets, be it if they're perpetual assets or online services that you purchase throughout the agreement. It also contains the downloads that you're familiar with in VLSC. It also has the volume license keys or activation keys, depending on the product, across the various products. It does give you the ability to, the flexibility that we've seen in the past through VLSC, where you may wish to deploy the products and then declare the usage of it. That responsibility and that, I suppose, trust model is still provided through the Microsoft Volume Licensing Center. It is one portal, as I've said. There will be no, from the build that Microsoft are doing with this, there will not be any additional portals or separations from this. The whole idea of NGVL is that, you know, it's, I suppose, a chance for Microsoft to move away from a model that's been developed over 15 years and really build this from the ground up. As I said, online services first, and then all the other programs and features and functionality that we've been familiar with in the past included in the new Service Center. That's a quick run through. I'm conscious that we're up to the half an hour. I've included just a summary. I'd love to take some questions, but I mean, some of the summary that I've put together is that it is a much more centralized model. It's trying to get rid of the complexity of some of the agreements. It is transactional. You can buy ad hoc for perpetual products or for online services, which is key for companies as they look towards online services like Office 365, etc. It is license only from the on-premise type licensing model. That will change in the summer of 2014. It is for commercial only today, but again, that's expected to change in the summer of 2014. The countries that are in scope today are the UK, Germany, US, and Canada, and the currencies to match. The price level of the points, you know, they're all the same as Select Plus. There is this common kind of commonness with Select Plus today, and it is much more designed to allow for agreements to run in parallel to each other. So David, unless you've got some questions.
Yep, just got a couple coming through. Thanks, Paul. So the first one is just regarding the slides and whether they'll be available. We certainly will circulate the slide deck afterwards, so you can review it at your own pace and look a bit more into the detail. We've also recorded the session as well, and so once we've sort of gone through it and edited it and made it consumable for the public, we'll again circulate that as well, so you can review and forward on to colleagues. We've had another question through, Paul. Is there any kind of migration path from the old programs to NGVL?
So absolutely, it's one of the things. So if you do decide to look at NGVL moving forward, you can inherit the price levels from your existing agreement into NGVL. So NGVL will run in parallel to your existing agreements, be it Select, Select Plus, or Enterprise Agreement that you have today, and you can inherit the price level from that. So if you have, an Enterprise Agreement with level B pricing, and you but separately from that you traditionally bought ad hoc, maybe under Select, you could have an NGVL contract in place that will provide you with the same volume licensing discount. And on that, the pricing between NGVL and Select is very much the same. If anything, it's more favorable NGVL, but they tend to be almost the exact same.
Okay, excellent. Got a couple more questions, Paul. So are points accumulative if a customer has online and on-premise purchases?
Exactly. So the points are accumulative, regardless of the spend or what type of product you're spending on. So in the NGVL price list, all products have, first of all, they're aligned to a pool. So be it desktop applications, desktop operating systems, or servers, they'll be classified in one of those three. In addition to that, they'll be classified with a points value. As you spend against the NGVL contract, regardless whether it's online services or the traditional kind of on-premise type products, those points are accumulated. The other point I would make in that front is if you are on the cusp of going from level A to level B in the example, on the qualifying order that you place, you will get the level B pricing, not on the orders subsequently. So you will reap the benefit of the level B pricing on that order that actually brings you into that level, not subsequent orders. So that is to your advantage.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And two more questions. Who or where do we direct queries regarding the changes?
If you're looking for queries from with your account managers in Software One, would absolutely be able to help you on this. If not, please reach out to myself. I mean, the original question was around the deck and the information and sharing that. Absolutely. I suppose the challenge I had is that I've been working on this for quite a while now, and I actually have quite a lot of information. So I suppose to manage it, to make it, I suppose, consumable, was actually the challenge I have. So there is a lot more behind all of this that that we'd be willing to share with you. But I would say certainly reach out to your account managers, reach out to myself for more information on it or any kind of queries that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And currently a final question. So we have just signed a 3-year EA. So would we remain in an EA until we renew, or does the new program come into effect over a set period of time?
Your enterprise agreement will run through its course. In general, Microsoft don't veer from that. If you have a volume licensing program, they will see it through. I mean, at the moment, we're seeing that with EAPs and ECI type agreements, where now we have this new server and cloud enrollment, but Microsoft are actually seeing through all the existing agreements before you transition across to an NGVL, or in this case, NGVL type agreement. However, having said that, if in the past you had an EA and a Select for EA for your products with software assurance or your committed spend, versus you had a Select agreement to run in parallel with it for kind of ad hoc purchases, then I would suggest why not make that parallel contract an NGVL contract and get used to it from that point of view while you run through your enterprise agreement.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Paul. Oh, just another one that's just come through. Will public sector be classed as government, as so not to be included sorry, let me repeat what I just said there. Will public sector be classed as government, as so not to be included in this until summer 2014?
We'd need to look at the individual case, but in most cases, public sector are classified as government. But if you would like to reach out to us in particular about this case, then we'd happily look at it for you.
Okay.
And in doing so, I suppose to answer the question, based on that, then it would fall into the summer of 2014 when NGVL will go live for you.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Paul. So do feel free to send any more final questions if you do have any. Whilst I do just a final wrap up, really, just say thank you all for joining us. Actually, just on the back of here, Paul's also included a bit more detail with regards to some of the transaction purchasing rules, which again we'll include in the deck that we send out. If you do have any further questions, as Paul suggests, please do reach out to your Software One account management team. If you're unsure of who that is, please feel free to reach out to myself or Paul, or use our info.uk@softwareone.com email address, and we'll certainly put you in touch with the right people to assist. So thank you once again, and thank you to Paul for taking us through the detail, and we'll look forward to joining you on future webinars. Thank you very much.